Hey there, everyone. Mary Cristelli here at the Lucero branch of the Pueblo City County Library District. I am from PCC's Wellness and Recreation program with another Wellness Where You Are video. So for those of you who might be new to this streaming program, excuse me, Wellness Where You Are is a bi-weekly program that we put on here at the Lucero branch of the library. And we talk about some things on how to maintain your wellness and take care of, tend to your well-being wherever you're at physically, wherever you're at in life, no matter what age you are. We just want to offer some hopefully very helpful tips and suggestions and tricks on how to tend to that, to your well-being. We believe that human beings are whole humans, not just a shell or a body that walk the earth. So we really focus on the multifaceted many dimensions that our health and well-being incorporate and involve. And we want to encourage you to kind of focus on all of those things. Sometimes when we think about wellness or we hear the words health or wellness, we tend to think mostly or only of our physical body. But again, we have a whole system within our being that we want to focus on and take care of and give our attention and time to. So what we're going to talk about tonight are the 8 dimensions of wellness. And these are those different aspects that we have within us that we want to tend to, that we want to take care of, that we want to focus on. We want to make sure that we're giving a little bit of TLC toward. You may have heard of the dimensions of wellness, and you might see this and be like, whoa, 8, I thought there were only 7, or I thought there were only 6, or you may even say yeah, I've heard of the 8 dimensions. So there are a few different models that folks use. With PCC Wellness and Recreation, we go with an 8-point model just because there are so many factors that play a role into our well-being and into our health and our wellness. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge and honor that we might be feeling like we're crushing it in one of our dimensions and not feeling so great in some other area, and having this picture of, there are 8 different big buckets or 8 different balls that come in that I'm juggling constantly in my life that can play a factor into why you might be feeling kind of off balance, off kilter. So we have an 8-point model. And so we're going to go through those different dimensions, and then we'll talk about the interconnectedness of all of them and kind of how do we, I don't like to say balance, because balance isn't the goal that we're trying to achieve, but we are trying to give healthy attention to each of them. So we'll talk about that toward the end. So the first dimension that we're going to talk about is the one that is so most obvious to folks, and that's our physical well-being, the dimension of physical wellness. This is taking care of your actual physical body. So there's one piece of it that we call HEAL, which means healthy eating, active living. And that is just, of course, what it sounds like, making sure that you're getting enough movement in every single day. We've said this fairly often, is that adults should be getting at least 30 minutes of exercise, and children and teens at least an hour, 5 to 7 days a week. So making sure that we're getting enough movement, that we're eating as healthy and a balanced of diet as we possibly can. So incorporating lots of fruits and veggies into all of our meals and snacks, and opting for whole grain options. So things like brown rice, whole wheat bread, whole wheat tortillas, oats, that type of stuff when we're looking at healthy eating. And then limiting the amounts of deep fried foods and foods that have high amounts of sodium, because that can actually increase our blood pressure. And then lots of processed and added sugar. So reducing those things, but increasing those healthier options. Another thing that is involved in our physical well-being is getting enough sleep. So looking at your sleep environment and making small changes if that's something that you're concerned about, if you're not getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. Going to bed a little bit earlier, eliminating screen time about an hour before bed, removing distractions and toys and stuff like that from sleeping spaces. So if you do struggle with getting sleep because you are on your phone for long periods of time into the wee hours of the morning or the super late hours of the night, removing those screens from the bedroom and having some sort of a calming sleep routine. Another one that actually kind of surprises folks is hygiene. So this is actually involved in your physical wellness. So making sure that you're taking care of your body, brushing your teeth, bathing and showering regularly, wearing clean clothes, that type of stuff. And then the last element of physical wellness is your safety. So reducing the amount of risky behaviors that you're taking, wearing a helmet every time you get on a bike, putting your seatbelt on every time you get into the car. So we're really wanting to take good care of our physical body in physical wellness. The second one, these are in no particular order, just so you know. The second one we're going to talk about is intellectual. And this is tending to your mind, your brain, developing your knowledge, enhancing your critical thinking skills, doing things that help you become more open-minded. So reading, keeping track of current events from credible sources, engaging in hobbies and creative endeavors. So doing things that exercise your mind in a way. So even doing like Sudoku puzzles or word searches or crosswords, those tend to our intellectual wellness. So we're wanting to make sure that we focus on that piece as well. The third is another big one that gets talked about a lot, and I'm super, super grateful that our society is moving forward in conversations about this particular dimension of wellness, because there's still such a stigma and there are some negative stereotypes surrounding it, and that is mental and emotional wellness. And so this is, as you can guess, is taking care of your mental health and being in tune with your emotions. So knowing what stress and what tension and what sadness or anger and what your different emotions feel like in your body. So developing some self-awareness about, what's going on with me? Why do I feel so angry? And exploring those, of course, in a safe setting and in a safe place. That's not always a safe feeling option, but enhancing your self-awareness of your emotions and kind of what's going on inside your mind. Developing healthy coping skills for that. So if you notice that you feel angry quite frequently or that you're sad a lot, like how are you communicating that to people? Are you telling anybody? Are you lashing out? So finding some healthy coping mechanisms and healthy coping tools for your emotions. And then of course, knowing and feeling that it's absolutely okay to reach out when things are feeling really, really overwhelming and you're unable to navigate it on your own. We all need help at times. And I'm a huge proponent of mental health care. I think that therapy is incredibly important. It is life-changing. There's nothing wrong with it. And so sometimes as part of our emotional and mental health and wellness dimension, we have to do that. We have to reach out and seek professional help, or at least seek help from people who we trust and feel safe around. The fourth dimension is the spiritual dimension of wellness. And this sometimes gets a little bit confused with, is it religious? Is it spiritual? And so the spiritual dimension can involve your religious values and your religious beliefs. An element of spiritual well-being is that we feel connected to something greater than ourselves. So for some folks, that is, they receive that through their religious beliefs. Another piece is that we feel a sense of purpose and meaning in life. And so really trying to figure out, like, this can be kind of hard. And I think all of us go through these moments in life where, like, what is my purpose? And that is touching on our spiritual well-being. So some ways that we can explore our spiritual wellness are through things like meditation or prayer, quiet self-reflection, deep breathing, guided meditations, even spending time in nature can help us develop a sense of spiritual well-being. The fifth dimension is environmental health. And so this is, occupying spaces that are healthy and safe and promote our overall and general well-being. So these are making choices that support the environment and care for it. So small things like gardening. You could have a little garden. Active commuting, so walking or riding a bike as often as you can, of course, when it's safe to do so. Recycling, just things like that to actually care for the environment. So that's an obvious piece to environmental wellness. One that often gets overlooked in it is doing the best you can to occupy safe spaces. So this can be tricky. This can be challenging because sometimes we are in spaces that are super unsafe and that they don't feel good or comfortable to us. So if we're able to remove ourselves from unsafe or uncomfortable feeling environments, That's absolutely okay. I'm developing that sense of like, I know what it feels like when I'm feeling like things are not, like this isn't an okay place to be in, and giving yourself the permission to step away. That is tending to your environmental wellness. That's checking in with your body, listening to your brain and to your gut and saying like, okay, I know that this isn't safe and I'm going to get out of here as quickly as I can. So doing the things that you can, of course, when you're able to be in spaces that make you feel safe and that you know are safe. The sixth one is, excuse me, financial wellness. This can be a tricky one, especially after everything that's been going on with COVID and a lot of job loss, a lot of financial instability. And so I would tend to guess that a lot of folks are feeling some really difficult stuff surrounding financial well-being and financial wellness right now, and that some people like that's always, and like this is one that is largely out of our control, especially like at a time right now where it's hard to find work. People have been laid off because of the pandemic. So when I talk about this one, any of these, we're not saying like you're doing something wrong if you don't feel a sense of accomplishment or a sense of leveled outness or something. If these feel really heavy to you, it's just, this can impact financial stress, financial worry, financial insecurity can impact your overall well-being. And I like this one being in this 8-point model because it's so important that we acknowledge that, because that's a very real situation. And sometimes our financial stress and financial insecurity might impact our ability to tend to our physical health. It may impact our ability to tend to our emotional and mental well-being, or intellectual, or any of them. And so it's just really important to talk about this one. This is about feeling a sense of satisfaction with what's going on in the financial situation. So really looking at your spending versus saving habits, tracking spending behaviors and looking at places where maybe you could cut back or cut things out, and then developing a budget that works for you. The seventh dimension is occupational wellness. Again, like financial, might be a stressor for folks right now just because of everything that's been going on with the pandemic. This is feeling a sense of satisfaction with the work that you do, and feeling like you belong in your workplace, you're connected to your coworkers, you have healthy work-life balance, as healthy as you can get it to be. You find purpose in the work that you do, or you feel passionate about some of the things, if not all of the things about your job. And it's just like you're doing work that feels like a quote unquote fit for you. So feeling a sense of well-being with your occupational wellness, again, can be kind of challenging because sometimes circumstances force us into taking on work that maybe doesn't feel like it fuels our passion or, ignites our sense of purpose or anything like that. So some things that we can do in situations like that are developing good, positive relationships with our coworkers, finding little things about the job that we do that maybe makes us feel excited or we look forward to, so that we're finding small things within stuff that might feel out of our control to connect to and get a sense of like, okay, this is going to be okay. So that we're not completely dreading every day having to go into work. So that's what occupational wellness is. And the last one, again, super impacted by the pandemic. I would say all of these have been impacted by it. But the last one of this 8-point model is social wellness. And this is feeling a sense of connectedness to others and having healthy relationships and open communication, honest communication, support, connectedness, that type of stuff with your people. So some ways that we do that, one huge way is to establish your own values and then set boundaries based on your values and enforce healthy boundaries with your people. And knowing that it's absolutely okay if someone doesn't feel like a safe person or a trustworthy person or one of your people, that it's okay to sever social connections if they're not healthy for you, if those types of relationships are impacting the way that you feel about yourself or if you feel like you just have a down attitude about being around somebody, it's okay to remove yourself from those relationships, no matter what the connection is. And then surrounding yourself with people who do make you feel good, and being a good friend to others, being supportive, being positive, trustworthy, communicative, all of those things. Like, be a friend that you want people to be to you. And we kind of, when we do that, when we're putting out that thing, we get back those pieces that we're emanating off of ourselves. So that is a quick, like a breeze through of all of the 8 dimensions. They're considered like a chain or a wheel, and they're all interconnected. That's the thing about it, is like I said earlier, is that if one of these is out of balance, it can impact the way that we, the others that we have, you know, we're really in relation to the others, it can impact it. Now on the screen, we've got a wheel up there. It looks like a pie. Anytime I've done this, folks have asked, do they correlate? So does one triangle pointing at the other, are they correlated? So I can't see the diagram, but if environmental and occupational were right across from each other, no, it doesn't mean that 2 across from each other, that if you pay attention to one, then you don't get on the other. Sorry. Okay, I think I was out of the shot. Apologize for that. This is the joy of live streaming, is we make adjustments in the moment. So they're all connected. And if we're giving more attention to 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 or 4, and we're neglecting or not paying attention to the others, we feel that in our body and in our brains, in our lives. We can feel that lack of synchronicity within them. Sometimes people are like, I want them, do I need to get all 8 of them balanced? And the answer is no. Balance is largely, like, perfect balance is largely unattainable. And I fear that we'll stress ourselves out more trying to reach perfect balance than if we develop a healthy relationship with the way that we look at them. So I like to think of each of these 8 dimensions as balls. Sometimes they're rubber and sometimes they're glass. When a ball is rubber, we're juggling all 8 of them at the same time, okay? So what we're trying to do is I'm not very good at juggling. Otherwise, I'd have 8 and I'd be juggling them. But imagine here. So we're juggling all these different dimensions. And sometimes, like, maybe physical is rubber and environmental is rubber, social is rubber, intellectual, environmental are rubber. But financial and occupational are glass. So I'm juggling them and I'm like, oh, I'm getting super overwhelmed because 8 is a lot of balls to juggle. I can let the rubber ones fall and they're going to bounce because I'm trying to make sure that these 2 glass ones don't fall and break. So what we're trying to do is develop our inner ability to recognize when is a dimension glass and when is it rubber. And if it's glass, what are some tools that I have in my toolkit to tend to this glass or these glass balls? And I'm going to let the rubber ones fall. And they're rubber because they're bouncing. So when it's rubber, that is like, I've got habits in place that, for me personally, physical is a rubber ball pretty regularly. I have habits in place that I do every single day that tend to my physical wellness. I just covered up my microphone and slapped it. I apologize if that made a loud noise. So for me personally, physical is rubber pretty regularly. So I know I can let that one drop because I just have behaviors that are now habits that I've been doing so long. But my emotional and mental health sometimes, certainly because of everything that's going on in the world and with the pandemic, my mental and emotional health has been a glass ball, and I've had to tend to that a little bit more gingerly and regularly and intentionally because I want to take care of that until I've established some new habits for that it can be rubber. So it's not so much about having perfect balance. It's not at all about, oh man, I am so great at juggling all of this. And if you've done that, I admire you. And I would like to know how that feels. It's not about being like, I'm so great at juggling all of this. It's, I have developed the self-awareness to recognize when something's rubber and when it's glass. I have these really great habits for these rubber ones. So I want to encourage you to think about each of these dimensions and figure out, okay, what are some habits that I have in each of these? And looking at the ones that you're like, I don't have very many habits in some of these areas. I don't feel as comfortable with this one or these ones. What do I need to do to take care of that? And then develop a toolkit and then be like, cool, I've got these rubber ones just bouncing away. And I'm really going to tend to these glass ones. That's a lot of information coming at you fast. I hope that this is helpful and that you're able to walk away from this with a little bit more certainty about, okay, cool. I feel like I'm crushing 7 of these, but that one, I'm glad you pointed that out because that validates some of the stuff that's going on in my life. I hope that it's helpful to you and that you do feel a sense of like some direction with this. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Wellness Where You Are. I hope you have a really, really wonderful evening and a great next couple of weeks. Take good care of yourself.